Hello everyone, welcome back to our Maya 2018 tutorial series. In our last lesson, we completed modeling our airplane. In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and do some scene cleanup, and we're going to get into rigging our airplane for animation. So we're getting to our outliner over here, and we're basically going to boil this down to two pieces for animation. We're going to need our propeller, and we're going to need our airplane. So I'm going to go ahead and start out by just selecting everything here, minus the propeller pieces. I'm just holding down Shift and left mouse button clicking the pieces I don't want selected. I'm going to go down to Mesh and Combine. Okay, and I'll delete the history there. This will be called Mesh Airplane. Okay. Next, I'm going to combine down the propeller pieces. So I'm going to select each one of these guys. And again, I'm going to go to Mesh and Combine. And I'll delete the history. And call this one Mesh Propeller Blade. Oops. I'll call propeller. There we go. Okay. Next, I'm going to get rid of the things I don't need. So go ahead and delete the history on these two. And then I can delete all three of these. I don't need them at all anymore. I don't need the reference images. And I don't need that extra curve. Okay, so those are gone. And I can also clear out the outliner over here. So where it says ref airplane, I can just go ahead and do delete layer on this one and delete layer on the pontoon layer as well. Okay. There we go. So now our scene's all nice and cleaned up, and we're ready to go ahead and start looking at rigging. So I'm going to create myself a control curve because control curves are typically what you use for controlling objects. So we're going to go ahead and go to create, and we'll go to NURBS primitives, and we'll go to circle. Okay. I'll hit R for scale, and I'll just scale this up till it's about this big. Okay. If your airplane isn't on the origin, you'll need to turn on wire unshaded and snap the control curve to the center of the airplane so that it is centrally located on it. Okay, so I'm going to call this control CTRL underscore airplane. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and freeze the transforms. That will make it to where the scales are all centered down to 1. I'll turn wire unshaded back off. Okay, so we're going to do a constraint on our airplane. So I need to change the modeling drop down to rigging. Okay, so that'll give me a whole new set of menus up here that are specific for creating control rigs. Underneath constraint, you'll see that there are 5, and there are 6 major constraints. There are 3 that we use primarily, which is the point, orient, and scale. Parent is a combination of point, orient. Point is a move constraint, orient is a rotation constraint. Scale is a constraint that we don't usually use very often, but it's used to control a rig size, usually when you're bringing it from one scene to another or moving into a game engine or something like that. Aim and pull vector, those are both constraints that are also used for creating character control rigs. We're not going to be using them in this lesson. What we are going to use is a parent constraint. So I'm going to go ahead and open the submenu for this guy. Make sure maintain offsets is turned on. You'll want to do this for any of your constraints. That way, no matter where your controller is, the controller will not move the position of the constrained object. So the way that you're going to go about constraining this object is by selecting the controller first, like it's currently selected. You'll shift select the constrained object, which is going to be the airplane. And you'll know that you did this order correctly because over here in the channel box, you'll see the constrained object over here before we add the constraint to it. So that way, as soon as we apply the constraint, it'll appear on the object being constrained. Okay, so I'll go ahead and apply. There we go. So go ahead and close that. So now when I grab my controller and I rotate it rotates my airplane. I can also move my controller and it also moves my airplane. Good. Now I want to also protect my airplane so I don't accidentally grab it like this and just start moving around. even though it's being controlled by this guy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my attributes over here, which will prevent me from going through and moving this. Okay, so I'll go to lock selected. Okay, so now if I try to move it and I hit W, you'll see that it's ghosted out. It means I can't actually move this at all. Okay, but I can still use my control curve to move this just fine. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to look at controlling our propeller blade here. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go to create, there's primitives and circle. Okay, I put 90-degree rotation in the rotate X. And I need this control snapped onto the point of this airplane propeller blade. So I'm going to turn on wire and shade it again. This time I'm going to hold down, I'm going to move on the move tool. I'm going to hold down V for vertex snapping. I'm going to middle mouse button drag the circle here until it snaps onto the end of the airplane propeller blade. It's locked onto that central vertex of the nose cone. Okay. I'm going to freeze the transforms. Okay. And now I can add a parent constraint to this propeller blade. So I'm going to select the controller, shift select the controller blade. I'm going to go to constraint and parent constraint. Okay. So now if I rotate this, yeah, it rotates just fine. Okay, so in your head you're now saying, what's this pink stuff? The pink stuff is just telling you that there is now a connection between the controller and the object, that there is a relationship. You can see it over here as well. If you open up the outliner, the little plus sign, you can see inside of it that there is a constraint going on. So just letting you know there's a connection. Okay, so now that we're done with that, I'm going to also go ahead and lock this so that we don't accidentally move our propeller blade. Okay, so select all the attributes on this side, right mouse button, and go to lock selected. Okay, so now I can't accidentally try to rotate this thing. Okay, but I can use my controller to rotate. I can use it to move. Okay, what I want to have happen though is I want when I move this, I want to move this as well. So for that to happen, I need to have this control be parented to this control. Before I do that, I'm actually going to make sure I name this thing. Let's go ahead and call this CTRL propeller. Okay. So to parent this guy in here, I'm going to select the controller, shift select, control main, and hit P for parent. And you can see now that is now a child of control airplane. Okay. So now if I rotate this, it will rotate the propeller blade as well, but it will make it to where the propeller blade can also operate independently of its parent. Okay, good. Go ahead and close down my outliner. I don't need that open anymore. Next thing I want to do is I want to get the rotation set up for my blade here. So I'm going to go ahead and on frame 1, I'm going to hit S. On frame, let's say 40, I'm going to enter a value in, you see there's values in the rotate Z. So I'm going to put in there, let's say 1080 and hit S. Okay. So I'm scrubbing the timeline, just left mouse button dragging over the timeline. You can see it, the blade spinning. Okay, let's go ahead and hit play over here and see what that looks like. That's good. Now, problem is that when my airplane's going, I want to make sure that the blade continues to spin forever. Otherwise, I'll just pick some super high number and have it to where it eases in, eases out. And whether that number is big enough and fast enough to get it going to where it looks like it's flying is a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the graph editor to solve the spinning problem where this will just stay spinning the whole time for our animation. So I'm going to open up the split screen here. We're going to do panels, panel, and we're going to do graph editor. Okay, so you see this curve here is the only animation that's going on, so it's the only thing you can see that's different than these straight lines at the bottom. These straight lines at the bottom are all the other channels in here, but the rotate Z is the only one that actually has animation information on it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to use this function underneath curves called pre-infinity cycle with offset and post-infinity cycle with offset. So now when I press play, it will go on forever. Now the problem here is that while you're seeing the stutter with the blade as it's going, is because right now mine does this whole ease in, ease out exponential type thing with curve as well. So we want this to be linear. We don't want to have the ease in, ease out. So all I have to do is make the tangents on this linear. So if I just go ahead over here where the says linear tangents at the top, it'll make this entire attribute linear. Okay, so now it's all straight. So now when I press play, it just goes and goes and goes and goes. Okay, that's good. All right, so this portion is ready to be animated. And we don't have a scene to fly it around in, and that's going to come a little bit later on. But right now, the next thing I want to do is actually add a little bit of color to this. So I'm actually going to jump into my hypershade and add some color to this. So I'm going to open up the split panel, go to panels, panel, and hypershade. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and add in, so thongs will behave like glass, blends are like plastic, and lamberts are a very diffuse surface, kind of like a wood table or something. So I'm primarily going to use thongs and blends to texture this guy. So I'm going to start out by creating myself a few thongs. Okay. Double click on this guy to get the color out. And let's go with, let's say, a black. We'll go with a dark green. Or no, we'll go with a mid green. We'll go with a white. And let's go with a blue. Like that. Okay. And then we're going to do one more. This one will be a Lambert. And this one's going to actually, I'll go to the color attribute, click on the create nodes. I'll go down to, normally use file, but this time I want to actually use, let's see here, wood. Okay. I'll start with this one here. I'm going to go to face mode. So right mouse button, select the faces on it. I'm just going to select all these faces. There we go. And I'll just right mouse button select. Actually, the easier way I'm thinking about it. First, start out by just assigning this all to black. And then hold down shift, press periods just to grow the selection. And I'm going to call this one blue. I'll just go through and select these guys, select those ones, and I'll assign these ones to the wood. Turn on textures, it's visible. There we go. That's good. And I'm actually going to create one more. I'm going to create another thong, and this one's actually just going to be a tinge of blue. And I want to make it to where there's some transparency. This is going to be the glass. Like that. I'll come back to that one here in just a second. Hold down shift and pressing period until it's all selected. And I'll give this one over to black. I'll select one face on each one of these feet here and supports. And I'm going to assign those ones to white. Okay. I'll give this wing over to dark blue. These ones will be green. And I'll have the rest of them. Throw that all out. And the blue. Okay, and that one, let's go ahead and make this one also green. Grow this selection out a bit. Okay, that looks good. Let's get back side of this one. We ended up didn't go all quite far enough, so let's go ahead and get that. Okay. These guys are going to be that transparent window I told you about. Draw that selection out. Oh, I see what happened. Oops. Just back up a little bit. I think I didn't have anything. Yep, there it is. Getting one of those selected. Okay, that was good. Let's go ahead and grab Okay. And I'll just make sure these ones here. There we go. Okay. I'll go ahead and assign this one to that transparency glass so I can see into the airplane. And I'll do the window as well. Selection just a little bit, and then assign it to glass. Okay, there we go. Go ahead and close this. I'm done with the hypershade for now. All right, so there's my airplane. Go with the blue, little green accent motif. Okay, so from here we can, our airplane is rigged. It's got some texture to it, and we're good to go to create some animation. In the next lessons, we're going to go ahead and explore some environment modeling, and we'll get it set up to where we can go ahead and set it up for some renders for our airplane here we've modeled. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.